Hi, my name is Abhijit Day. I work in a company called Veritas Technologies, and I run storage engineering for Veritas. We work in storage on private cloud powered by OpenStack. We have a couple of emerging products. One is known as Hyperscale for OpenStack. The other is Veritas Access for OpenStack. These are already launched and upcoming emerging solutions from storage from Veritas. With me, I have Sachin Lakhanpal. He is the lead architect for the storage team within Veritas, and he'll walk us through the rest of the presentation. What the topic here is, how do you enable a policy-based software-defined architecture to move data into the cloud? Now, if you really look at it, unstructured data is going huge, right? There is really a lot of the data. Unstructured data is not changing every day. It also has to be, retained for compliance purposes, and you have to maintain HA, resiliency, and data has to be managed. It has to be controlled. So, if you don't do those kind of stuff with unstructured data, then it leads to storage inefficiency in your data center. You have less storage, high OpEx and CapEx needs, right? And so, how do you solve this problem with unstructured data? You have to have a notion of how do I tier my data between hot and cold storage. You have to look at how do I tier the data to cheaper storage from an expensive storage. You have to obviously provide HA and resiliency, and ultimately you have to provide a way of controlling by policy defined way to move the data from each of these tiers to another. Right? That's the essence of this talk, right? So what we are going to showcase here is a product that we are working on in Veritas called Veritas Access, which is down there below OpenStack. It plugs into OpenStack through Cinder and Manila interfaces. And what it does is it provides you a policy-based way of getting the data which is sitting right off of your OpenStack Cinder and Manila device into the cloud, right? So, but then you don't want to do it again and again. So the way it does is policy is something that is a set of operations that you want to perform on a set of data. And you want to have that operations continually happen again and again. Once it's enforced, it should live in the system, govern the data in the way you want it. So what Sachin is going to walk us through is a way of describing a policy managed protocol to move your data on an use case where you want to move from your OpenStack private cloud to any other kind of cloud, which will help you in cloud-to-cloud DR, cloud-to-cloud data movement, and the lifecycle management of unstructured data. So Sachin, you want to talk?
Yep. Well, thanks, Abhijit. Just carrying this forward, the focus here is how can we leverage policies to have better control over the data. So OpenStack, the policy management is not new to OpenStack. So we are extending heat-based policy management and extending that to storage management. So policy is a set of rules that define what actions can be taken. So if you look at from a data management point of view, you're looking at rules that help you define what needs to happen to data after a certain period of time based on access patterns. What do you want to do with the data? For example, a lot of unstructured data that is not touched for a long period of time, as a storage cost goes up, you want to be able to tier that data. You want to be able to use that storage for serving your applications rather than keeping the dead data on the data center. So this is the policy that could help you then define what you do with the data, right? So as an example policy, you could define something like if an access time of a set of files is greater than 6 months, it's not been used, tell the Manila share that, hey, move this data to a cheaper tier. So in this example, we'll show you how we have leveraged Horizon and how we have leveraged the underlying file system to be able to define this policy, pass this policy parameters back to the storage, and then seamlessly how the data gets moved into a cheaper tier. So this is a small demo. I know it's a little bit hard here, but so in this demo, what we're going to show is, this is a Veritas Access storage provider to OpenStack. This is a Manila share configuration. we can define policy parameters at the time of Manila share configuration, or and during Horizon, when you're trying to create a share, you could pass extra parameters, and we have overloaded the metadata field at the time of share creation to pass these extra parameters to the storage backend. So essentially what happens, you're telling the Horizon that, hey, any files that are stored in this share that meet the criteria, which is around access time, modification time, and pass those parameters back to the storage backend. The storage backend then has intelligence to be connected to a cloud tier. Essentially, in this case, we ended up using an S3 cloud. It could be Amazon, it could be any private cloud in the data center, and that gets added as a tier into the primary file system. And then when the policy enforcement happens on the storage backend, we are essentially going to apply the criteria, and any files that meet that criteria would get moved into this S3 cloud. So as through the demo, if you can see, it's as the files meet the criteria, those files are moving into the S3, and then these are the gets and puts that happen on the S3 backend. And this way, your expensive SAN storage or your DAS storage, which is serving primary data, can be offloaded into an S3-based cloud. And this is with no change to the application. Because this is a tier, the file system keeps track of where the data is. So we can intelligently bring the data on the fly when a request from the application comes, right? So this is a way, again, managed through a policy. Nothing that an application needs to do. It's a policy parameter that the storage admin or an OpenStack admin would set up, and the files would get automatically moved based on policy criteria. So I'll move to the next slide here. So just as an extension of what we saw in the demo, the way this is achieved is we have an intelligent storage backend that provides storage to the OpenStack subsystem. It's a clustered file system that sits in the storage backend. We keep track of metadata. There's a metadata container that stores location of the files, the attributes of the files, and we have a bunch of data containers which are just used to store the data. And just like you would create a data container on any DAS or SAN storage, you could add an S3-based storage or any storage for that matter, like Azure or private cloud, as a tier into the file system. So through REST APIs and through policy enforcement, when an access to a file is not happening and you want to move the file, the metadata lookup lets us to move the file into the S3 cloud, and vice versa when an access comes in for the file. We go to the next. So just a little bit of technical in-depth here. So the way we are able to accomplish this is through again tracking of files and based on metadata. We have an intelligent hashing algorithm which keeps track of where the files and the objects need to be stored. So we use a mix of hashing as well as policies to determine where the data should be stored. It could be the algorithm would tell us, hey, this needs to be on a cloud tier, or this needs to be on a local tier, and a combination of the hashing and the policy algorithms will let us seamlessly migrate the data between on-premise, high performance OpenStack-based storage to an S3-based storage. So again, from an application standpoint, there is no change. As an application access comes in, because we are the file system providing the data, we can decide how to serve that data, right? In terms of the focus here is making this completely seamless from OpenStack perspective, extending the policy framework that OpenStack itself has. Some of the examples of how the policies could be bucketed. From a data point of view, you have resiliency bucket, which is essentially providing high availability and DR for the data for OpenStack storage backend. Optimization, you could, for example, define a policy which says, after X amount of time, I need this data to be compressed or deduped. This is not something that you will have to, the application admin has to wait for a storage admin to do this in the backend. You can do this at definition time inside of OpenStack itself. I'll skip over this. I mean, the Veritas Access file system integrates into OpenStack through the support for Cinder and Manila. There is a list of APIs that we implement today, and we have extended this API in this release with this with the topic here is policy managed Manila share, essentially for data movement. So coming back, I'll leave it to Abhijit to kind of introduce the rest.
Yeah, thank you, Sachin. So we have a minute left. So again, we went over a policy-defined protocol to move data from SAN or OpenStack-based private cloud to any form of S3 share. Could be Amazon, could be Ceph, could be another OpenStack cloud, right? It helps your DR, it helps you data movement and migration from any kind of heterogeneous backend to another to save cost while maintaining resiliency and HA. This product we are launched already, it's in the market and you can give it a shot. It does all of that. It's a software-defined NAS for unstructured data with a cloud backend, and it's done with a policy-defined SDS framework. That's the product called Veritas Access. It's a multi-protocol access protocol, any form of NFS, SMB, S3 protocol on the front end, and S3 on the back end with a file system embedded. That's the product we are trying to introduce to the market, which is, of course, compatible to the current release of OpenStack. We have other sessions as Veritas. We have a booth you could visit and learn more of our products, hyperscale and access of the emerging products. And we have 2 more sessions today and tomorrow. Please come by. Thank you.